What would you do if you spent $6.4 billion building something, gave the other side a 50% ownership stake for free, and then they tried to block it from opening? That's exactly what happened with the Gordie Howe International Bridge, and the way it got resolved is a masterclass in staying calm when the other side is playing politics with facts that don't hold up. So here's the situation. The Gordie Howe Bridge connects Windsor, Ontario to Detroit, Michigan. It's basically finished. It's designed to move around 8,000 trucks every single day across one of the busiest trade corridors in the world. Canada paid for the entire thing, all $6.4 billion, covering the bridge itself, customs plazas, highway interchanges, everything on both sides. And as part of the deal, Michigan got a 50% ownership stake without putting in a single dollar toward construction. That agreement was negotiated openly in 2012. The U.S. State Department approved it in 2013. Trump himself called it a vital economic link in 2017. And in 2019, his own administration signed legislation that included $15 million in U.S. customs funding tied directly to this project. Then on February 9, 2026, a post appeared claiming Canada owned both sides of the bridge and that the United States deserved compensation before it could open. That claim directly contradicted a decade of signed agreements, presidential permits, and bipartisan funding decisions, including ones made during the same administration raising the objection. Now here's where it gets interesting. Mark Carney didn't hold a press conference. He didn't fire back with headlines. He made one phone call, walked through the facts piece by piece, and quietly dismantled an argument that looked explosive on the surface but fell apart the moment you looked at the actual documents. And the response inside Michigan wasn't divided along party lines. It was unusually unified, because the math was too obvious to ignore. Rick Snyder, the governor who negotiated the original deal, came out publicly and corrected the record point by point. He made clear that Michigan structured this deal specifically to gain long-term economic benefits with zero financial risk. And blocking the bridge wouldn't hurt Canada. It would hurt American workers, American businesses, and Michigan's own auto industry. That last part matters enormously. The Detroit-Windsor corridor handles roughly a quarter of all merchandise trade between Canada and the United States. The North American auto industry moves components across that border multiple times before a single vehicle is ever completed. Any disruption doesn't just cause inconvenience, it drives up costs, breaks production schedules, and makes American manufacturers less competitive. And for nearly a century, that entire system has relied on one bridge. The Ambassador Bridge, built in 1929, privately owned since 1979 by the Moran family, operating essentially as a monopoly for heavy truck traffic. It generates over $60 million a year in toll revenue. And when the Gordie Howe project started gaining traction as a publicly owned alternative, the pushback was immediate. About $30 million spent on ballot initiatives, multiple federal lawsuits claiming exclusive rights to any Detroit-Windsor crossing. All of it failed. Even the Supreme Court declined to hear the appeal. So the Gordie Howe Bridge wasn't just adding capacity, it was ending a monopoly. It was creating redundancy in a system where a single mechanical failure, a structural problem, or even a protest blockade could shut down one of North America's most critical trade routes with no backup whatsoever. The new bridge also connects Ontario Highway 401 directly to Interstate 75, cutting out city streets, traffic lights, and congestion entirely. A University of Windsor study found that change alone could reduce commercial transit times by up to 20 minutes per trip. Multiply that across thousands of trucks moving every day, and you're looking at projected savings of around $2.3 billion over 30 years, savings that flow directly to trucking companies, American manufacturers, and agricultural exporters. So by the time Carney made that call, there was nothing new to argue. Every claim being made publicly had already been answered in contracts and permits that hadn't changed in over a decade. He didn't escalate. He just pointed back to what was already on paper and let the facts do the work. But here's the thing that makes this story bigger than one bridge. The broader trade environment had been heating up. Ontario's ban on American alcohol sales, disputes over Canadian dairy, and most notably, Carney's trade deal with China that dropped tariffs on Canadian canola from 85% to 15% and opened up an estimated $7 billion in new export opportunities. Washington saw that as a strategic move, not just a trade adjustment. And in that kind of environment, a physical structure like a bridge stops being infrastructure and starts looking like a pressure point. The problem with using the Gordie Howe Bridge as leverage is that its benefits don't lean toward Canada. In many ways, they lean heavily toward the United States. Michigan gets half the toll revenue forever, without having paid $1 to build it. American workers helped construct it. American supply chains depend on it. And American consumers feel the cost every time that corridor gets disrupted. The bridge didn't stop. The ownership structure didn't change. And the economic case remained exactly what it had always been. Which brings me to the question I want to leave you with. Do you think this was ever actually about the bridge? Or was it always just a convenient pressure point in a much bigger trade battle? And when the agreements are already signed and the numbers clearly favor both sides, should political strategy still have the power to hold up projects at this scale? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you want more breakdowns like this, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.